Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the cold viewport of the UES Discovery. The stars looked the same as they had 50 years ago when she left Earth, but something felt wrong. The closer they got to home, the quieter space became. "Still no response from Earth Control," said Lieutenant Torres from his station. His voice carried worry that Elena felt in her own chest. They had been trying to contact Earth for 3 days now. Nothing but silence came back. Elena turned away from the viewport. The Discovery carried 37 people back from their mission to Kepler 442. They had spent 50 years building a colony on a distant world. Now they were coming home to share what they had learned. But home was not answering. "Ma'am, we're picking up something strange," called Sergeant Chen from the sensor station. "There are structures on Earth that weren't there before. Big ones. They look like crystals, but they're massive." Elena walked over to look at Chen's screen. The images made her stomach drop. Huge crystal towers rose from every continent. They glowed with soft blue light and seemed to pulse like they were alive. Around them, the familiar lights of Earth cities were mostly dark. "Take us to Luna Station first," Elena ordered. "We need to know what happened before we go to Earth." But Luna Station was empty too. The great wheel that once spun with thousands of people inside hung dead in space. Its lights were out. No ships moved around it. Elena felt cold fear growing in her chest. "Captain, I'm reading life signs on the surface," Torres reported. "Human life signs. But they're scattered and weak. Most of them are in small groups far from the crystal structures." Elena made her choice. "Take us down to North America. Find the strongest human signal and land near it. But keep our weapons ready." The Discovery descended through Earth's atmosphere. Elena watched her homeworld grow larger through the viewport. Where once green forests and blue rivers had covered the land, now strange patterns of crystal and metal spread like a disease. The crystal towers rose higher than mountains, their blue glow visible even in daylight. They landed in what used to be Kansas. A group of humans had gathered to watch their ship come down. Elena counted maybe 50 people. They looked thin and scared. Their clothes were simple, made from rough cloth and animal skins. These people looked like they lived in the past, not the future. Elena put on her sidearm and stepped out of the ship. The air smelled different. It carried a sharp metallic taste that made her nose wrinkle. The humans who waited for them looked at the Discovery with wonder and fear. An old man stepped forward. His hair was white and his face was marked by years of hard work under the sun. "You're human," he said, and his voice shook with emotion. "Real humans from the stars. We thought we would never see your kind again." "I'm Captain Vasquez of the United Earth Ship Discovery," Elena said. "We've been away for 50 years. "What happened here?" The old man's face grew dark. "They came from the sky 37 years ago. 7 different kinds of aliens. Their ships were broken and smoking, but they were still more powerful than anything we had. They said their worlds had been destroyed by something terrible in deep space." Elena felt her crew gathering behind her. She could hear the shock in their breathing. "What did they want?" she asked. "Our world," the old man said simply. "Each group took a part of Earth. They built those crystal towers to power their machines and control the weather. They made us work for them, mining metals and growing food. They said no one would come to help us. They said Nadie Vendría," a younger woman added. She had scars on her arms and anger in her eyes. No one would come. They made sure everyone heard those words. They said it so much that people started to believe it. Elena looked around at the faces watching her. These people had lived as slaves for almost 40 years. They had given up hope that help would ever come. But now she was here and she could see something changing in their eyes. "How many humans are left?" Elena asked. "Maybe 2 billion, the old man said. "Down from 8 billion when they came. They didn't kill us on purpose, but their machines poisoned the air in some places. Their wars with each other destroyed cities. And some humans just gave up and died." Elena felt anger building in her chest, hot and strong. These aliens had come to her world as refugees and had turned into conquerors. They had enslaved her people and stolen her planet. They had declared that no one would come to challenge them. "Where are they now?" she asked. "Fighting each other mostly," the young woman said. "They never learned to work together. Each species wants to control the whole planet. They battle over territory and resources. They use humans as soldiers sometimes, but mostly we just try to stay out of their way." Elena looked up at the nearest crystal tower. It rose into the clouds, pulsing with alien energy. She could see movement around its base, strange shapes that were not human. The aliens thought they owned this world now. They thought no one would come to take it back. They were wrong, Elena said quietly. Then she raised her voice so everyone could hear. They were wrong about Nadie Vendría. Someone did come. We came back, the crowd began to murmur. Hope was a dangerous thing for people who had lived without it for so long. But Elena could see it growing in their faces like a small flame. How many ships do you have? The old man asked. Just one, Elena admitted. But we're not the only humans who left Earth. We built colonies on 12 different worlds during our 50 years away. And we learned how to build things that these aliens have never seen. She turned to Torres. Send a quantum burst transmission to all colonies. Tell them what we found here. Tell them Earth needs them to come home. Torres nodded and ran back to the ship. Elena looked at the crowd of humans watching her. They had suffered for almost 40 years under alien rule. They had been told over and over that no one would come to save them. We need to learn everything you know about these aliens, Elena said. Their weapons, their weaknesses, their plans. Can you help us? Yes, the young woman said immediately. We've been watching them and waiting for a chance to fight back. We know where they're weak. The old man smiled for the first time since Elena had met him. You really came back, he said. After all these years, humans came back to Earth. Elena looked up at the alien crystal tower again. Its blue glow seemed less bright now, less threatening. Yes, she said. We came back, and we're going to take our world back too. In the distance, she could see other towers on the horizon. 7 different alien species had claimed Earth as their own. They had divided her world among themselves and enslaved her people. They had proclaimed that no one would come to challenge them, but they had made a mistake. They had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, the will to come home, and now the wars of the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel were about to begin. Elena sat in the circle of humans around a small fire. The night air was cold, and the alien towers glowed like giant candles against the dark sky. Maria Santos, the young woman with scars, drew lines in the dirt with a stick. This is how they divided our world, Maria said. She made 7 sections in the dirt. The Kythera took North America. They're the tall ones with 4 arms. They like cold places and they mine deep underground. Elena watched as Maria drew the territories. Each section had different markings. The Zephyrians control South America. They fly and they change the weather. Their crystal towers make storms and drought wherever they want. Europe belongs to the Nethys, Maria continued. They're like big spiders but smart. They build machines that think. Their towers control all the computers and electronics that still work. The old man, whose name was Robert, added more details. Asia is split between the Vorthak and the Hegemony. The Vorthak are warriors who love to fight. The Hegemony are merchants who trade everything, including humans. Africa is controlled by the Zirion Collective, Maria said. They work together like a hive mind. They grow strange plants and change animals into new forms. And Australia belongs to the phase hunters. Nobody sees them much because they can become invisible. Elena studied the rough map. 7 alien species, each with their own territory and their own strengths. How do they fight each other? She asked. Constantly, Robert said with a bitter laugh. The Kythera and Zephyrians have been at war for 20 years over Central America. The Nethys try to hack into everyone else's crystal towers. The Vorthak attack anyone who gets too close to their borders. They use human soldiers sometimes, Maria added. They promise food and protection to people who fight for them. But mostly they fight with their own weapons and machines. Elena's communications officer, Lieutenant Torres, approached the fire. Captain, we've received responses from 3 colonies already. The Titan settlement and the Europa research station are preparing ships. They should arrive in 6 months. What about the other colonies? Elena asked, still waiting for replies. The quantum signals take time to reach the further systems. Torres paused. But Captain, we detected something else. There are human-built structures in the asteroid belt. Large ones. Elena stood up quickly. What kind of structures? Mining stations and shipyards from the sensor readings. They weren't there when we left 50 years ago. Someone has been busy. Robert looked confused. But all the humans were on Earth when the aliens came. How could there be people in space? Elena smiled for the first time in days. Not all humans were on Earth. Some were already living and working in space stations and asteroid mines. If they stayed hidden when the aliens arrived, they've had 40 years to build, Torres finished, and they've been watching everything that happened down here. Maria's eyes grew wide. You mean there are free humans out there? Humans who were never enslaved? It looks that way, Elena said. Torres, send a transmission to those asteroid structures. Use the old Earth military codes. Let's see who answers. While Torres went back to the ship, Elena learned more about the aliens. Each species had arrived damaged and desperate. Their ships had been fleeing something terrible in deep space, a force they called the Devourers that destroyed entire star systems. They came here looking for safety, Robert explained. But when they saw how easy it was to take over Earth, they forgot about working together. Each group wanted the whole planet for themselves. The Kythera were the first to arrive, Maria said. Their ship crashed in Canada, and they started building crystal towers right away. When the Zephyrians came a month later, they found the Kythera already claiming territory. That started the first war, Robert continued. Then the other species arrived one by one, each one fighting for the best land and resources. Earth's governments tried to resist, but they had never faced technology like this. Elena listened to story after story of humanity's fall. The aliens had not come as evil conquerors. They had come as refugees, but fear and greed had turned them into oppressors. They had divided Earth among themselves and dismissed humans as a primitive species that could never threaten them. They said, Nadie Vendría, because they knew humans had no starships, Maria explained. They destroyed all our space centers and satellites in the first months. They thought they had cut us off from the stars forever. But they were wrong, Elena said. We were already among the stars. We just hadn't come home yet. Torres returned with excitement in his voice. Captain, we got a response from the asteroid belt. There are over 3 million humans living in space stations and mining colonies. They've been hiding from the aliens for 40 years, building ships and weapons. The humans around the fire began to whisper to each other. 3 million free humans, ships and weapons. After 40 years of slavery and hopelessness, the impossible was becoming real. What did they say? Elena asked. They're sending a fleet to meet us, 12 ships with advanced weapons. They should arrive in 3 days. And Captain, they know about the colonies. They've been in contact with some of them for years. Elena felt her heart racing. Not only were there free humans in space, but they had been planning and preparing. They had maintained contact with human colonies across the galaxy. The aliens had thought they were cutting humanity off from the stars, but they had only made humans more careful and more united. How many ships are coming from the colonies? Elena asked. The space station commander says 47 colonies have confirmed they're sending help. Ships, troops, and new weapons. Some of them have been traveling toward Earth for months, ever since they lost contact with the home system. Maria stood up suddenly. They're coming. All of them are coming home. The aliens have 7 species and control over 2 billion enslaved humans, Robert said slowly. But humanity has 47 colonies and 3 million free people who have been preparing for war. Elena looked up at the crystal towers glowing against the night sky. The aliens had proclaimed that no one would come to challenge them. They had divided Earth among themselves and grown comfortable in their conquest. They had even stopped watching the skies for threats. They made a mistake, Elena said quietly. They thought Nadie Vendría because they only saw humans as earthbound. They never imagined we could become a spacefaring species. And now we're coming from every direction, Torres added. From the colonies, from hidden space stations, from worlds they don't even know exist. The fire crackled as the humans around it began to smile. For the first time in 40 years, they were not alone. For the first time since the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel, there was real hope. What do we do until the fleets arrive? Maria asked. Elena stood and looked at each person around the fire. We get ready. We learn everything we can about our enemies. We contact every human settlement on Earth, and we make sure that when the ships arrive, we're ready to fight. The aliens proclaimed that Nadie Vendría, she continued. They were wrong. Someone came. We all came. And now the real war begins. 3 days later, Elena stood on a hill watching 12 human ships descend through Earth's atmosphere. They were not like the Discovery. These vessels were sleek and dangerous, built for war. Their hulls were black and reflected no light. They landed silently in the valley below. Commander Sarah Mitchell stepped out of the lead ship. She was tall and strong, with gray hair and scars on her hands. Behind her came soldiers in armor that Elena had never seen before. Their weapons hummed with energy, and their movements were precise and controlled. Captain Vasquez, Mitchell said, extending her hand. We've been waiting 40 years for someone like you to come home. Elena shook her hand. Commander Mitchell, How many people do you have up there? 3.5 million now. We've been growing and building ever since the aliens arrived. Hidden bases in the asteroid belt, on the dark side of the moon, in the outer system. Every year we get stronger. Mitchell looked around at the crowd of Earth humans who had gathered to watch. We've been watching the aliens for 4 decades. We know their weaknesses, their patrol patterns, their technology. We've been planning for this day since the moment they proclaimed that Nadie Vendría. What kind of weapons do you have? Elena asked. Mitchell smiled grimly. Things the aliens have never seen. We've had 40 years to study their technology from stolen samples. We know how their crystal towers work, how their ships are powered, how their weapons function, and we've built counters for all of it. One of Mitchell's soldiers approached. Commander, we're detecting movement from the Kythera tower to the north. Looks like they noticed our ships landing. Good, Mitchell said. Let them come and investigate. It's time they learned that humans are no longer helpless. Elena felt a chill of excitement and fear. You want to fight them now? We should wait for the colony fleets to arrive. We're not going to start a big battle, Mitchell explained, but we need to send a message. For 40 years, the aliens have believed that humans can't threaten them. It's time to change that belief. Within an hour, Kythera patrol craft appeared on the horizon. The aliens flew in formation, their ships gleaming silver against the blue sky. Elena counted 6 vessels, each one larger than the Discovery. They approached with confidence, expecting to find primitive humans they could easily control. The Kythera ships landed in a circle around the human vessels. Tall aliens emerged from each craft. They had 4 arms and skin that looked like polished metal. Their eyes glowed with cold blue light. Elena had seen pictures of them from the human survivors, but seeing them in person was different. They moved with the arrogance of conquerors. The lead Kythera stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice came from a translator device that made the words sound mechanical and harsh. Primitive humans. You will surrender these new ships to the Kythera Collective. You will report to the nearest labor camp for processing. Mitchell stepped forward to meet the alien. I don't think so. The Kythera tilted its head, confused. You resist? Humans do not resist. Humans obey. These humans do, Mitchell said calmly. She raised her hand, and her soldiers raised their weapons. You've been telling humans for 40 years that Nadie Vendría. You were wrong. We came back. The Kythera made a sound that might have been laughter. 6 ships of humans against the might of the collective? You are amusing but foolish. 6 ships here, Mitchell corrected. Thousands more coming. And we know exactly how to hurt you. The alien raised its 4 arms and energy began to glow around its hands. But before it could attack, Mitchell pressed a button on her wrist device. The crystal tower in the distance suddenly went dark. Its blue glow flickered and died. The Kythera froze. Its glowing eyes went wide with shock. Impossible. The tower cannot be disabled. We've been studying your technology for 40 years, Mitchell said. We know every frequency, every power coupling, every weakness. We just shut down your local network. Your ship's weapons are offline. Your communication with the collective is cut. You're on your own. The other Kythera began to move toward their ships, but Mitchell's soldiers were ready. Blue energy beams shot from human weapons, striking the alien vessels. The Kythera ships sparked and smoked. Their engines died and their hulls cracked. Surrender, Mitchell told the lead Kythera. Your ships are disabled. Your tower is offline. You have 2 choices. Surrender or die. The alien looked around at its crippled ships and darkened tower. For the first time in 40 years, a Kythera had met humans who could fight back. This is not possible. Humans are weak. Humans are primitive. Humans adapt, Elena said, stepping up beside Mitchell. We learn, we grow. We come back stronger than before. The Kythera looked at Elena with its glowing eyes. You are the ones from the distant ship. The ones who returned. We are, Elena said. And we brought friends. Lots of friends. Mitchell pressed another button on her device. The crystal tower began to glow again, but now its light was different. Instead of blue, it pulsed with white and gold. We're taking control of your communication network, she announced. Every alien species on Earth is about to receive the same message. Elena watched as the tower's light spread across the sky. In the distance, other towers began to change color too. The human-controlled signal was jumping from tower to tower, spreading across the planet. What message? The lead Kythera asked. Mitchell smiled. Nadie Vendría was a lie. Someone did come. Humanity has returned to Earth, and we're taking our world back. Across the planet, alien species were receiving the signal. The crystal towers that had controlled Earth for 40 years were now broadcasting a message of human defiance. The Zephyrians in South America, the Nethys in Europe, the Vorthak in Asia, all of them were learning that the age of easy conquest was over. "You have started a war you cannot win," the Kythera said. "There are billions of humans under our control. We will use them against you." "Will you?" Elena asked. "Because I think those humans have been waiting 40 years for someone to show them that resistance is possible. How loyal do you think they'll be when they learn that their own species has returned with ships and weapons?" The aliens' confidence began to crack. For 40 years, the Kythera and the other species had ruled through fear, and the belief that humans had no choice but to obey. But now humans had choices. Now they had hope. Mitchell turned to her soldiers. "Secure the prisoners. Repair their ships, we'll need them for intelligence. And prepare the communication array. It's time to contact every human settlement on Earth." As the Kythera were led away, Elena looked up at the altered crystal towers. Their light was now human light, carrying human messages across the world. After 40 years of slavery, Earth's enslaved humans were learning that their exile was over. "How long until the colony fleets arrive?" Elena asked. "The first ship should be here in 2 weeks," Mitchell replied. "By then we'll have human resistance cells active on every continent." The aliens ruled through the promise that Nadie Vendría. Now everyone will know that someone came. Elena nodded and looked around at the human survivors who had watched the battle. Their faces showed amazement and growing hope. For the first time in their lives, they had seen aliens defeated by human technology and human courage. The wars of the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel had begun not with a massive invasion, but with a simple demonstration. Humanity had returned to Earth not as refugees or settlers, but as liberators. The aliens who had proclaimed that no one would come were about to learn the price of underestimating human determination. 2 weeks later, Elena stood on the command deck of the UES Liberator, flagship of the returning human fleet. Through the viewport, she could see Earth below, but it looked different now. Explosions bloomed like flowers across the continents as human forces struck alien positions simultaneously around the globe. "Report from the Australian front," called Commander Torres from his station. "Phase Hunter forces are retreating to their underground bases. Human resistance cells have taken control of Sydney and Melbourne." "European theater?" Elena asked. "The Nethys computer networks are failing. Their artificial intelligence systems can't handle our quantum viruses. Human tech specialists from the Titan colony are leading cyber attacks on every major Nethys facility." Elena nodded and turned to the tactical display. 47 human colonies had sent ships, soldiers, and weapons. Each colony had developed different technologies during their decades of isolation. Together they formed an arsenal the aliens had never imagined possible. From the Europa research station came freezing weapons that could stop Zephyrian storm makers in their tracks. The Mars colonists brought mining equipment that could tunnel through Kythera underground fortresses. The asteroid belt miners had gravity bombs that could crush Vorthak war machines. "Status on the South American campaign?" Elena asked. "The Zephyrians are trying to create a massive storm to destroy our ships," reported Captain Kim from the Kepler 442 fleet. "But the weather control specialists from New California are countering their atmospheric manipulation." "The storm is breaking apart." Elena watched the data streams flowing across her screens. This was not the kind of war the aliens had expected. They had prepared for humans to fight with primitive weapons and desperate courage. Instead, humanity was fighting with coordinated precision and technologies adapted from dozens of different worlds. "Captain Vasquez," came a new voice on the communication channel. "This is General Harrison from the hidden Luna base. We have news from Asia." Elena had not known there were still humans on Luna. "Go ahead, General." "The Vorthak and the hegemony are no longer fighting just human forces. They're fighting each other. Our psychological warfare teams have convinced each side that the other is planning to betray them to humanity." Elena smiled grimly. Human colonies had not just developed new technologies during their isolation. They had developed new strategies, new ways of thinking about warfare. The aliens ruled through fear and division. But they had never faced enemies who understood those tactics and could turn them around. "What about Africa?" she asked. "The Zirian Collective is the biggest challenge," Torres reported. "Their hive mind makes them hard to confuse or divide. But the biowarfare specialists from Proxima Base have created organisms that disrupt their collective consciousness. Individual Xerians are starting to act independently for the first time in decades. Commander Mitchell's voice came through from the surface. Elena, you need to see this. We've captured a Kythera command center. The intelligence we're finding changes everything. What did you find? Helena asked. The aliens have been in contact with their home worlds. Some of them anyway. And Elena, the devourers they were running from? They're real, and they're coming this way. Elena felt her blood turn cold. How long do we have? Unknown. Maybe years, maybe decades. But the aliens know about it. Some of them have been preparing for a second evacuation if Earth falls to the devourers. They were going to abandon Earth, Elena realized. They were going to take what they could steal and run when the real threat arrived. Exactly. But there's more. The data shows that some alien species are willing to negotiate. They're starting to realize that fighting humanity while the devourers approach is suicide for everyone. Elena looked at the tactical display again. The human assault was succeeding beyond all expectations. Alien forces were retreating or surrendering across every continent. But now she understood that this was only the beginning of a larger war. Open a channel to all human forces, Elena ordered, and patch in any alien commanders who are willing to listen. Channel open, Captain. Elena took a deep breath. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Human Liberation Fleet. 3 days ago, alien forces controlled Earth and enslaved humanity. Today, human forces control most major population centers and alien command structures. You proclaimed that Nadie Vendría. You were wrong. She paused, letting her words reach every human resistance cell and every alien commander across the planet. But we have learned something important. The devourers that drove you to our world are still coming. If we continue to fight each other, we will all die when they arrive. Therefore, I am offering terms. Any alien species that surrenders unconditionally and provides full intelligence about the devourer threat will be allowed to remain on Earth as refugees, not conquerors. You will work with humanity to prepare defenses for the real enemy. Any species that continues to fight will face the full force of human technology and determination. We have 47 worlds backing us, millions of soldiers and weapons you have never seen. You enslaved us for 40 years. We learned your weaknesses during that time. Now we are stronger than you ever imagined possible. Elena looked out at Earth below. Explosions were still blooming across the continents, but they were becoming fewer as alien forces realized the hopelessness of their position. You have 6 hours to respond. After that, humanity will assume that any alien forces still fighting have chosen death over cooperation. She closed the channel and turned to Torres. What's the status of our casualties? Remarkably light, Captain. The aliens were prepared to fight desperate humans with primitive weapons. They weren't ready for coordinated attacks by advanced technology. Most of their losses came from confusion and surprise rather than sustained battles. And human civilian casualties? Lower than expected. The resistance cells did excellent work identifying alien positions and evacuating human workers. And Captain, there are reports coming in from around the world. Humans are celebrating in the streets. They're tearing down alien monuments and raising Earth flags. Elena felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with victory in battle. For 40 years, her people had lived without hope. They had believed that Nadie Vendría, that no one would come to save them. Now they were learning that they had never been abandoned. Humanity had never stopped trying to come home. Captain, Torres called out, we're getting responses to your ultimatum. The phase hunters are surrendering. The hegemony is requesting negotiations. 3 Nethys factions are offering to share their computer technology in exchange for protection. What about the others? The Kythera are still fighting in North America, but their resistance is collapsing. The Zephyrians are split. Some want to surrender, others want to fight to the death. The Vorthak, well, they're Vorthak. They'll probably fight until the last one falls. Elena nodded. It was more cooperation than she had dared to hope for. The alien species who had conquered Earth were learning that humanity was no longer the weak, divided species they had enslaved. Humans had returned from the stars united, armed and determined to reclaim their home. But now a greater challenge loomed. The devourers were coming, and when they arrived, humanity and the alien refugees would have to stand together or fall separately. The wars of the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel were ending, but the war for survival was about to begin. 1 year later, Elena stood in the newly built Unity Hall in what used to be New York City. Around her sat representatives from humanity's 47 colonies and delegates from 6 alien species. The Vorthak had fought to the last warrior as expected, but the others had chosen survival over pride. "The deep space sensors are complete," announced Dr. Sarah Kim, the chief scientist from the Proxima Centauri colony. "We now have detection arrays covering a sphere 50 light-years around Earth. When the Devourers arrive, we'll know about it long before they reach our system." Elena nodded and looked at the mixed assembly. Humans and aliens working together had accomplished more in 1 year than either species had managed alone in decades. The crystal towers now served as communication relays connecting Earth to every human colony. The alien ships had been rebuilt with human technology, making them faster and more powerful than ever. "Report from the Defense Council," said Commander Mitchell, who now led the integrated military forces. "We have completed construction of orbital defense platforms around Earth, Mars, and Luna. Each platform combines human engineering with alien energy systems. They're more powerful than anything either of our species built alone." A Kithera delegate raised one of its 4 arms. "The mining operations in the asteroid belt are ahead of schedule. Human techniques combined with Kithera deep drilling technology have produced enough raw materials to build defensive stations in every human system." Elena smiled. The former conquerors had become partners. It had not been easy. 40 years of oppression could not be forgotten quickly. But the approaching threat had forced both sides to choose between cooperation and extinction. "The Nethys computer networks are now fully integrated with human quantum systems," reported a spider-like Nethys delegate. "Our combined artificial intelligence can process information and coordinate defenses across all 47 systems simultaneously." "What about the refugee populations?" Elena asked. Maria Santos, who had become the representative for Earth's human survivors, stood to answer. "Integration is progressing well. Humans and aliens are working together in every major city. The younger generation especially has adapted quickly to cooperation." Elena remembered Maria from that first meeting around a campfire. The angry young woman with scars had become a leader who could speak for billions of former slaves. Her scars were still there, but they no longer defined her. "There have been some problems," Maria continued honestly. "Some humans still don't trust aliens, and some aliens still see humans as inferior. But most people understand that we need each other if we want to survive." A hegemony trader, whose species looked like tall birds with feathered crests, spoke up. "The economic integration has been remarkable. Human creativity combined with alien technology has produced innovations neither species achieved alone. Trade between human colonies and alien refugee settlements has increased prosperity for everyone." Elena looked around the hall at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. This had not been the future anyone had planned. The aliens had come as refugees and become conquerors. Humanity had been enslaved and then had become liberators. Now they were all allies facing a common threat. "Status report on the mobile fleets?" she asked. "Each human colony now has a fleet capable of defending itself and providing support to other systems," reported Admiral Chen, who had been promoted from sergeant. "We've standardized on hybrid designs that combine the best of human and alien engineering." "And the new colonies?" Elena asked. 17 new systems have been settled in the past year," said Captain Torres. "Mixed populations of humans and aliens working together from the start. They're developing technologies and social structures that neither species imagined possible." Elena felt a deep satisfaction. Humanity had not just reclaimed Earth, they had created something new. A civilization that combined the strengths of multiple species, united by shared purpose and mutual respect earned through struggle. "Dr. Kim, what do we know about the Devourer timeline?" The scientist consulted her data pad. "Based on refugee accounts and our sensor data, we estimate 15 to 20 years before they reach the outer edge of human space. That gives us time to prepare, but not much." "What exactly are we facing?" asked Maria. A Xerian delegate, speaking with the collective voice of its hive mind, answered, "The Devourers are not a single species. They are a collection of machine intelligences that consume matter and energy to reproduce themselves. They have destroyed thousands of civilizations across the galaxy. But," the Xerian continued, "they have a weakness. They do not cooperate well with organic life. They expect species to fight each other while the Devourers advance. They have never faced a truly united front of multiple species working as one. Elena stood and walked to the large window that showed Earth's skyline. Where alien crystal towers had once dominated the view, now mixed architecture rose toward the stars. Human buildings stood next to alien structures, connected by bridges and tunnels that allowed easy movement between different species' living spaces. The aliens who came to Earth 40 years ago proclaimed, "Nadie Vendría," no one would come, Elena said, turning back to the assembly. They were wrong. Humanity came back from the stars stronger than before. Now the Devourers believe the same thing. They think no one can stand against them because no species has ever truly united to fight them. They expect us to fight each other while they advance. They expect fear to divide us. Elena looked around at the mixed assembly of humans and aliens. They're wrong too. We're not fighting each other anymore. We're fighting together. Commander Mitchell stood up. The integration of our forces is complete. Human adaptability, Kithara engineering, Nethys computing power, hegemony logistics, Xerion coordination, and Phase Hunter stealth technology. The Devourers have never faced anything like this. More importantly, added Maria, we know what it means to lose everything and fight to get it back. Every human in this room lived through conquest and liberation. Every alien delegate chose cooperation over extinction. We know the cost of failure, Elena nodded. The wars of the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel had ended with humanity's victory, but that victory had been the beginning of something larger. 2 species that had been enemies had become allies. 7 species that had fought each other for territory had learned to work together for survival. The Devourers will come, Elena said quietly. When they do, they'll find something they've never encountered before. Not scattered, frightened species fighting each other while destruction approaches. They'll find a united alliance that has learned to combine different strengths into something greater than the sum of its parts. She walked to the center of the hall, where a new flag hung from the ceiling. It showed Earth surrounded by stars, with ships from many different species flying in formation around the planet. They'll proclaim that nadie puede resistir. No one can resist. They'll be wrong about that too. The assembly rose as one, humans and aliens standing together. Outside the windows, the mixed skyline of Earth reached toward space where human and alien ships patrolled together. In the distance, the crystal towers pulsed with new purpose. No longer symbols of conquest, but beacons of unity. 40 years ago, 7 alien species had fallen from the sky and proclaimed that no one would come to challenge them. They had been wrong. Humanity had come back from the stars, stronger and more determined than ever. Now the Devourers approached, believing that no one could stand against them. They would learn the same lesson that the conquerors of Earth had learned. Never underestimate a species that refuses to give up, especially when that species has learned to turn enemies into allies and division into strength. The wars of the Tierra Cayeron del Ciel were over. The age of unity had begun, and when the Devourers arrived, they would face not scattered civilizations fighting alone, but a galaxy that had finally learned to stand together. Elena looked up at the stars visible through the hall's transparent ceiling. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were coming, but for the first time since humanity had reached for the stars, they would not face the darkness alone.